So you've decided to put in a fence. Today we go over 4 things to investigate before you start planning out that project. Hey everyone, Jason from Iron Fence Shop. Once you've decided to put a fence in, the first thing everyone does is start shopping for the type and style they want. However, there may be some things you want to look into first that could affect what type of fence, your height of fence, and where you can put the fence. So today I wanted to go over 4 things to investigate before planning out your fence project. The first thing you want to investigate is if there are any governing bodies that have restrictions on fencing. Governing bodies are agencies such as the city building department, homeowners associations, and historic preservation societies that can levy restrictions on your property. You'll want to see if any of these will affect your fence choices. Homeowners associations and historic societies for your property will typically be noted when you buy your home, so you should have people you can contact to check for those fence restrictions. Your city's building department will be a place you want to contact too. A phone call to them should let you know if you're required to file a fence permit and what restrictions there are. Now, while I wouldn't consider them a governing body, it's also not a bad idea to check with your neighbors in advance too. The last thing you want is a cranky neighbor making problems for you after you spent lots of time and money to buy that fence. The second thing to investigate is if there are any fence-specific restrictions in your area. Restrictions could be imposed by one of the governing bodies we just discussed, or just be a general code in your area. Even if you don't have a governing body or aren't required to get a fence permit from your city, you'll still want to see if there are any enforced restrictions by your city or township outside of requiring a permit. These restrictions can be wide-ranging, from very specific items such as the type, color, or style of fence with an HOA, to more wide-ranging height and setback restrictions at a city, state, or township level. The last thing you want to do is buy all your fence only to be told you can't install it. Even if you aren't dealing with any governing bodies or live outside the city in a more rural setting, you'll still want to look for height restrictions and setbacks that could apply to fencing. Height restrictions could be imposed if you're installing the fence at the front of your property or at the corner of an intersection where it could block the view for traffic. Most cities and governing bodies will not allow for fence above 6 feet tall or that blocks the view at intersections. Setback restrictions are imposed when they don't want a fence too close to the road, public sidewalks, or against your property lines. The setback will be the distance from those areas you need to install your fence. It could be small, like the fence being installed 8 inches back from your property line, or more extreme, such as the fence needing to be 8 feet back from any public road or sidewalk. The third thing you'll want to investigate is any underground obstacles that could cause problems for you during installation. You don't want to plan your fence layout only to run into issues underground after you get started. Your first call should be to 811 to have any public utilities marked. For those of you unfamiliar, 811 is a nationwide number in the US you can call to have your utilities marked. It's the call before you dig number and doesn't cost anything. You don't want to find that gas or water line the hard way by digging into it. When they come out, they'll mark any public utilities in your yard with flags or spray paint. That way you can safely steer your fence line clear of those areas during the planning phase. Now, while 811 can mark public utilities such as electric, sewer, and water, it may not catch everything underground. Other items can include gutter drains that run to the street, wiring for landscape lighting, or large tree roots. Make sure your fence won't be running where you could dig a post hole into one of those items. Our fourth and final thing to investigate is if where you're installing the fence will affect your fence choices or installation planning. This could be wide-ranging, but here are a few things to consider that could affect how well your chosen fence will work for your project area. If your fence is going to be installed in a way other than buried underground in concrete, you'll want to see how your chosen fence handles that. This could be something such as installing the fence on a wall top or concrete patio slab. That can change the hardware required or if the fence will work there. Another consideration is your yard terrain. Gradual and mild slopes over long distances can usually be handled by all types of fence. However, if you have short, steep drops in the yard, that's a little different. For example, a 1-foot drop over 60 feet, that isn't so much a big deal. A 3-foot drop over 20 feet would be considered extreme terrain for the fence to traverse, and it may not work. You'll also want to consider where you'll be digging your post holes in the yard. Fence posts typically need to be buried a minimum of 2 to 3 feet in ground and concrete. For fence posts up north with hard freezes, you could be digging a post hole that's roughly 3 feet deep. If your soil is extremely rocky and won't allow that kind of depth, you'll want to talk to us to see if it's something we can work around. The post holes also need to have a diameter that's at least 3 times the size of the post. For example, a 2-inch square post needs a 6-inch diameter hole. Keep the width of the post hole in mind when placing your post right next to your home's foundation, sidewalks, or driveways. You want to make sure you have enough room around those areas to dig your post hole diameter. It's not a big adjustment on a small 2-inch post, but on a larger 6-inch post for a driveway gate, that's an 18-inch diameter hole that will be sticking out 6 inches on each side of the post. Make sure you'll have enough room to dig your post holes. Keep large tree roots in mind as well. If you have larger, older trees, you may want to leave some room between them and the fence. You don't want to hit a major tree root that you can't get around after you installed half the fence line. Even if you can cut the root out of the way, that might kill your tree if you do. Make that a last resort. An easy way to check for rocks in tree roots is with a piece of 4-foot long steel rebar and a hammer. Go around where you want to run the fence line in your yard and hammer the rebar into the ground in several spots where the post will go to see if you run into any obstructions. It's much easier to adjust the fence line during the planning stage than it is once you started digging post holes. So there's 4 things to investigate before planning out your fence project. The more you know in advance, the better prepared you'll be to choose the best fence and plan for the installation. Be sure to check us out here at ironfenceshop.com. Want more info on how our Stronghold iron and Infinity aluminum fences handle slopes and hills in your yard? Check out this video we did. If you have any other questions, you can shoot us an email at sales@ironfenceshop.com or give us a call at 800-261-2729. We look forward to hearing from you.